Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I must admit I'm a bit puzzled by it. The reason why the committee wasn't, consulted, didn't raise it was, when the process started 3 years ago, there was an election, a year after, where the Premier gave a commitment to address electoral reform and donation laws. And 2 years later, it hasn't happened. There was a report, but that's in a drawer, hidden somewhere, and hasn't been released. That's how we are talking about this. So the member for Nelson is absolutely right. Context is important here. If we need to see that piece of legislation in that context, it is relevant. It shouldn't be relevant, but unfortunately it is. Election commitment 2 years ago, nothing was done. Report is done, put in a drawer, hidden somewhere, not to be released because it's not reported. If there's anything you can fast-track election reform. You can do it next week. Fast-track it. So it is an important amendment. And I don't want to see the legislation being characterized by, the unhappy triad of major projects, major party donors, and major influence. And I must admit, although I'm a pretty new member to the Legislative Council here, I'm really unimpressed that a Minister of the Crown feels he can direct us to rubber stamp legislation just because he's unhappy about the honourable members of this chamber daring to propose amendments that seek to strengthen legislation. I'm pretty unimpressed. Because evidence-based legislation that is logical and transparent should be in the Minister's best interest. In fact, it should be in the Minister's only interest. So it certainly is in the interest of our community, and members have commented on that many times before now, because the community is concerned. People are concerned that a major project can just be declared by the minister snapping his fingers. So the role of the minister is important, otherwise the minister's role would not be clearly defined in the legislation, because he initiates the process. And it shouldn't become a bidding war between the highest bidder, who wants to see a program progressed.
It's also what it avoids.
It's initiation. It's an important role. And of course it's important, otherwise it wouldn't be in the legislation. What's the point?
Someone's got to start it.
So at the very, very least, what we can ask for now in the current context is to ask for transparency. That's what people expect. And we are asking for due process here. Undue influence, seeking an unfair advantage, supported by a good amount of money to political decision makers, is not in the interest of the democratic process either. And I shouldn't need to point it out, it should be a given. It should be a given, Honourable Leader. It's the 21st century, and therefore we need to put the legislation into context. And the Honourable Member for Nelson made that context very clear. The context here is that lack of transparency of political donations does indeed cast a shade over the government and its action. And that's what pointed out in the editorial in the Mercury today, this morning. And in that context is that the Premier stated he's just too busy to fix the problem. He's not even thinking about it. And as I mentioned, the well overdue report on the Electoral Act and donation is hidden in a drawer. Why is it not being released? What else does the government have to hide? And in this context, I'm asking for the amendment to be considered by the honourable member of this chamber. And there's a review clause in there. We are going to review the legislation in 5 years' time anyway. I'll still be here. I'll still be here.
You will.
I might not be.
Take it out again. And hopefully by then we have the Electoral Act fixed and we have donations reform introduced as well.
The question is the amendment